AEW, chat, celebrated 6 years this past Wednesday. I don't know exactly what we're celebrating, but they celebrated nonetheless on Wednesday night in front of a very dull audience in Hollywood, Florida. 6 years in Hollywood, Florida. I don't know exactly what we're celebrating. Are we celebrating mediocrity? Are we celebrating EVPs that still, to this very day, still can't run a fucking Target? Are we celebrating an egomaniacal Tony Khan, who is basically Vince McMahon without the sexual allegations, but more clueless? Are we celebrating him and the fact that he lies to the gullible pro wrestling media who slurps up everything that Tony Khan serves them? Which is it? What are we celebrating? Piss poor creative, things that don't make sense. Have you watched Dynamite lately? There are more logic gaps on AEW Dynamite than there would be in a Bruce Pritchard summoning circle alongside Vince McMahon. You couldn't conjure up more logic gaps than you would see on Dynamite. It's fucking bad, man. It is bad. AEW in year 6 was exposed. They have been exposed. They continue to be exposed. Gail Kim, pretty much one of the more notable names, has exposed AEW and their fan base, because if Gail Kim, who doesn't have any affiliation with any company, if she can't go out there and project her opinion on a pro wrestling product that she has given her life to for over 20 years, then who exactly does this fan base respect? They respect nobody. This is why Gail Kim doubled down on her criticisms of RIHO and said Kenny Omega's response was very derogatory towards her. It was. And I'm glad she's doubling down. She went on the usual campaign following something like this. She was interviewed. We're going to go over it today. I thought it was quite comical. And we're going to go over it today right here on Off the Script. It is your Saturday, October 4th, 2025. Gail Kim. She thinks Kenny Omega fell into a trap, believing the AEW sickos who twisted her message and opinion about RIHO and about the product. Last week, Gail Kim was in the news. She said she felt uncomfortable watching RIHO in AEW because she was presented like a little girl and that the camera shots would go up her skirt. Again, this is factual information. If you watch anything RIHO related on AEW Dynamite in 6 years, you would know that that is the case. Gail Kim also said RIHO was not a believable opponent against other women that she has faced on the AEW roster. Again, factual information. Gail received a lot of criticisms for her remarks, especially due to her own size with one of her most famous rivals in Awesome Kong. Well, I mean, we went over this once before. I mean, I don't know. Maybe you are really a sicko and a fucking retard at the same time. If you think comparing RIHO and Gail Kim is anywhere in the same universe, like how could you compare? RIHO, she's got the body type and presentation of a 3-year-old child. 3-year-old child. I'll up it 6 years old. Middle school. Backpack and all. Getting ready to go into class and sit with her schoolmates. That's RIHO. And this is the character, and this is the 29-year-old woman that grown men drool over because she's some sexual fantasy for them. It's fucking weird. It's fucking weird. All that type of stuff is weird. I don't know why you're fantasizing and thinking you have any shot with any of these women that you see on TV. Bro, they don't want to know you, man. Believe me, they don't want to know you. Then you compare RIHO and Gail Kim. You look at Gail Kim, beautiful, married to one of the most esteemed chefs on the planet, and she looks like an athlete. She's worked in the business for 20 years. She's done everything that a legendary female in this business could ever dream of. Yes, let's go out there and compare her to RIHO, because we can't say anything about RIHO, anything negatively about RIHO, because She was the first ever AEW Women's Champion, JD. Sure thing, bro. Sure thing. Things like that don't matter. The only thing that matters to is the sickos and nobody. When AEW is fucking dust and doesn't exist anymore, nobody's going to give a shit. Gail received a lot of criticism for her remarks. And then Kenny Omega added fuel to the fire in defense of RIHO by implying Gail Kim was angling for a WWE contract. And he wrote, another day and another legend doing the splits on it for the yearly TKO gift basket. She was interviewed with the Huge Pop podcast. Gail Kim talked about the situation and said Kenny Omega should have reached out to her privately. Man, I wonder who said that last week when I did the video, man. Was it this guy here? Yeah, it's exactly what I said. So Gail listened to the video. Gail listened to what I had to say because people, the sickos, were sending it to Gail, and then people were upset on that side because Gail stuck up for me and said, well, he's got a point. So there you go, man. Kenny should have reached out to her privately to discuss the matter instead of posting a cryptic tweet that encourages diehard fans to pile on her and anybody with toxic comments and toxic attacks. She ultimately laughed away Omega's very derogatory remarks and said she didn't even know what he meant by it. I don't know what he meant by it either. She's not working for anybody. How could she do anything in regards for a TKO gift basket? She don't work there. You know who's doing something for an AEW gift basket? Why don't we aim our toxic comments and our questions to Dave Meltzer? He's the one doing many, many splits on you-know-what for an AEW gift basket. Nobody says anything, though. Nobody said, that's all right, though, to Kenny Omega. That's all right to everybody in the sicko fan base. Love how that works. But even what he said, Gail says, though was very derogatory in my mind, he was probably reading things online and believing the AEW fans who twisted all of the messaging. That's my opinion. I don't know. Maybe he did read my original answer. But to say I do the splits, I didn't even know what that meant at first. I'm like, what do you mean that I do splits for TKO? I'm like, what is he talking about? Kenny Omega basically called Gail Kim a whore and said that she jumped on the dick for a TKO gift basket. It's basically what, in so many words, Kenny Omega was trying to project to Gail Kim. Very derogatory, very nasty, and just very disrespectful. And I'm sure Robert Irvine, Gail's husband, have you seen the size of Mr. Irvine's muscles? Have you seen how he looks in his fine age of 60? He could probably snap Kenny Omega's neck in half. So if I'm Kenny Omega with all the injuries that he has accumulating, he looks like a fucking shell of his former self. I can't even recognize the guy he is anymore. You better tread carefully there, Twinkle Toes. You better tread carefully because Robert Irvine, man, he don't need to go into the kitchen to find something to beat the shit out of you, man. He's got his bare fists. Have you seen him? Gail also tried to clarify her criticisms of RIHO by saying it was based on one match she watched from very early when AEW just started. Kim says she doesn't currently watch AEW, which I don't blame the woman because the show is fucking terrible. And that her knock on RIHO's believability was more about in-ring psychology than anything else. In response to critics like Dave Meltzer, who brought up RIHO's history with online bullying, Kim says she won't apologize for expressing how she felt when watching one RIHO match from many years ago in AEW. Nobody really knows why RIHO was not on Twitter anymore. Are we really running with the narrative that RIHO was bullied off of Twitter? Maybe she just doesn't want social media. Was she really bullied off of social media? Is this the narrative that Dave and Kenny are running with? Does anybody truly know? Probably not. So on the same podcast, Gail Kim once again discussed more of the RIHO situation. She said, in addition to what she just said about in-ring psychology and believability, which I absolutely agree with her with, Gail Kim says, I actually had former AEW people who worked there say to me, I agree with you. I would be backstage and I felt the same way. You know, how many people who work in AEW actually feel a certain way but don't say anything because Tony Khan is lining their pockets with the almighty dollar? How many people know the show is fucking dead and the show is suffering? How many people know that things don't make sense and things should be done differently? How many people know Tony Khan is the reason why AEW is in the shithole it's in, and none of them speak up about anything? Because they're getting paid, and they're getting paid handsomely. Many people. How many of that roster don't say anything about not working and just simply collect a paycheck? Guarantee you there's a lot of talent there that don't give a fuck about working. And when they do work, they work 1 day a week, and some of them still complain and get paid the way that they do. It is a fucking circus. So I actually agree and believe Gail when she said that she had AEW people who work there say to me that they agreed with her. Who these people are, I don't know. They better watch out, otherwise they'll get thrown in Guantanamo Bay. Kim once again shared that she felt uncomfortable watching RIHO's match, or matches, recalling that the cameraman shot up her skirt and said that RIHO dressed in that match like a little girl. For Kim, that moment colored her view of the rest of the match. When I said she wasn't very believable in that match, that's because I wasn't comfortable from the start, she says. Gail Kim concluded by saying RIHO is a believable wrestler in the current day, but admitted to not seeing enough of the Japanese star's in-ring work. While some, including AEW's Kenny Omega, have spoken out against Gail Kim, she isn't backing down from what she truly believes, which is her opinion. On a new episode of the Wrestling Observer, I think this was the week that all of this went down. Dave, he pretty much went in on Gail Kim, and obviously, you know, he planted his flag for AEW because he's absolutely on the payroll and he's absolutely an advisor for Tony Khan. So he's got to go out there and defend his company to the death. Dave Meltzer said some things about Gail Kim. She actually raised awareness to what she feels about Dave Meltzer following last week's incident. She says in regards to Dave Meltzer, what frustrated her the most was his star rating system and the weight it carried with wrestlers. You know, I heard a lot of things about Dave Meltzer, but I never met him, so I don't want to judge him. And one thing that always bothered me about him in general is like wrestling is subjective, and you can have a favorite wrestler or who you think is the GOAT. But with him, it's his star ratings. I know a lot of wrestlers, especially when I was a producer or in talent relations and listening to the talent that worked for us, they cared about his star ratings. This guy is one guy who's never had a match in his life and obviously has a favoritism towards Japanese wrestling and towards AEW. I just didn't get it. He's never had a match. He's never done any job at any level in any wrestling company ever. End quote. You know, Kenny Omega, in regards to the Gail Kim comments, you know, if you watch Dynamite on Wednesday, you would have heard Kenny Omega thank everybody as he looked like a broken man on Wednesday night. He thanked everybody for watching, whether you've been with AEW for 6 years and you're watching tonight, great. If this is your first show and are just getting on board now, which is a mistake for most if you are in that camp, thank you. Thank you for being with us. He said they've lost some big people. They've lost some along the way, but every situation in this company has made him a better person for it, and he thanks everybody for coming out and still supporting AEW. This has made him a better person. I don't know how you could go on national television and say that you're a better person to all of the 2,000 people that were watching you live in Hollywood, Florida, and the dwindling number of people watching you around the world at home on TBS and Max, how this makes you a better person. How all this made you a better person. Were you a better person here when you thought to tweet Gail Kim that she jumped on dick for a TKO gift basket? Is that what you think it is, being a better person? Kenny Omega should be, honestly, more consumed with what actually is happening in and around the company that is paying him week by week. Because what is happening week by week is a fucking absolute travesty to pro wrestling. It is a comedy show. It's failing, and none of it makes any sense. Kenny Omega, he came back to wrestle Okada at All In. He lost his Unified Championship match. We didn't see him on TV for weeks following All In. All of a sudden, he's announced for a fucking steel cage match between AEW babyfaces and the Death Riders because it's Hiroshi Tanahashi's final Forbidden Door, and he's on the team with Kota Ibushi and Darby Allin and Will Ospreay. How many weeks did Kenny Omega make television to build that match up and make it mean something and make the story more meaningful so that the match was better? 0. He gave his time to 0 weeks of television. Kota Ibushi, his best friend, didn't even know he was booked for the show until he went on Instagram and found out that there was a graphic of him in the Forbidden Door graphic for this match. Kenny Omega then comes back to the ECW arena. He's teaming with Adam Page for whatever reason. They're back on the same page. The Elite is back together. Former tag team champions or whatever the fucking case may be. And then he gets put through a table by Kyle Fletcher. Only to then miss weeks of television, miss All Out, and cite that he is away getting medical procedures or appointments done in Japan, and he's going out there to go to a video game expo and do work for the company. Now, I don't know what's wrong with Kenny Omega, nor do I care. All I know is from what I see on television. The guy looks like a fucking broken down man who doesn't even want to be there anymore. But Kenny Omega, he comes back on Wednesday, says what he says in this post-match promo after having another party match on Wednesday. And AEW Creative can't even get his fucking return to the company right. Kyle Fletcher put him through a table a few weeks ago at the ECW Arena, which ended one of their shows on Wednesday a few weeks back. Kyle Fletcher then goes on to wrestle Adam Page and loses his opportunity at the World Championship. Kenny Omega's back on Wednesday. Kyle Fletcher's on Wednesday wrestling Orange Cassidy. They're both in the same building. They're both on the same show. How many mentions of Omega, Fletcher? How many mentions of Fletcher, Omega? How many segments did we get with either one of these guys on Wednesday? What is Kenny Omega doing at WrestleDream? Did Kenny Omega get any direction on Wednesday towards the next pay-per-view? What is Kyle Fletcher doing at WrestleDream? More than likely wrestling Mark Briscoe. Don't you think that it would be in the best interest of the company to finish what you started a couple of weeks back with Omega being put through a table by Kyle Fletcher and doing Kyle Fletcher versus Kenny Omega for the TNT title? Instead, Kenny Omega is going to miss yet another pay-per-view because of reasons. Meanwhile, Kyle Fletcher's going on to wrestle Mark Briscoe. Mark Briscoe should be going on to wrestle Adam Page because he beat MJF at the fucking pay-per-view. MJF, by the way, a former world champion. This is just the tip of the iceberg on how things don't make sense. But Kenny Omega wants to go out there and claim that he's a better person for it. Bro, your priorities are all fucked up. Gail Kim should be the least of your concerns. Gail Kim's opinion of AEW, which is an opinion by many, Gail Kim's opinion of RIHO, which is the opinion of many, should not even be of a concern to you. There are bigger fish to fry if you are one Kenny Omega. And none of those things seem important. But defending Dave Meltzer and defending RIHO and defending AEW from the criticisms seems to be the thing that is most important. Watch my show on Wednesday, this past Wednesday. You will see how everything you watched on Wednesday literally does not make any sense. And if we want to talk about someone doing the splits on something, maybe we should talk about Dave Meltzer and start exposing Dave Meltzer for the fraud that he's become. He has become one-sided. And I'm sure this was this way for a while, but it's more blatant now. He's become so more one-sided than any other time I've seen Dave Meltzer's work. But nobody wants to call him out. The actual people with brains call him out. But to AEW and their fucking team and their sickos and their company, it's all right for Dave Meltzer to be doing the splits on the AEW side to get an AEW gift basket, right? Gail Kim I am proud of Gail Kim for actually sticking to her word and keeping her stance on what she said, because at the end of the day, she said nothing wrong. She said nothing wrong. She's not with TNA. She's not with MLW. She's not with this. She's not with that. She's not with WWE. She doesn't want to be with WWE. Who's to say she doesn't end up there at some point? Everybody always gets the itch to go back. There's a great women's division there. You don't think Gail Kim is going to watch these ladies perform year after year, week after week, month after month, and not want to be a part of that? Especially with how respected she is. If you are NXT and you are a performance center and you don't utilize Gail Kim, who's out there not doing much right now, then you're stupid for not pursuing that if you're WWE. Of course I'd want somebody like that on my team. So who's to say she doesn't end up over there? But she's not with anybody right now, which makes Kenny Omega's comments look fucking stupid. She ain't doing nothing for no gift basket. But everybody, apparently, that is pro AEW, like Dave Meltzer, he continues to do it for an AEW gift basket, but it's all right. And the bullying and the fucking toxic comments and the tribalism. They want to cry about the tribalism. They want to cry that they're attacked. They want to cry that they're criticized and that they're under fire every single time. And they got not all this unfair criticism. But you bring it on yourself by comments like this being made. They don't even realize that they're sparking the online tribalism, and they started all by themselves. I don't get it. I don't really understand it. Gail Kim, she said what she said. She doubled down on her comments, and she goes in on Dave Meltzer saying that he hasn't wrestled a fucking match. He hasn't done any job at any level at any wrestling company ever yet. All these guys, they simply all care about just 5 stars, his Meltzer ratings, his match ratings. And then you want to know why AEW's failing. When Gail Kim goes out there and says what everybody's saying, and they all care about the star ratings, and they don't care about anything else. They don't care about stories. They don't care about logic. They don't care about TV continuity. They don't care about weekly episodic television. They don't care about how to book a show properly. They just want to put on great wrestling matches for the sickos so that they can accumulate Meltzer 5-star ratings. What happens when Dave Meltzer's not here anymore? Who's going to give these ratings? Are these ratings even going to matter? What happens when AEW goes under because they focus too much on Dave Meltzer's ratings and not much about what anybody else gives a shit about? Which is story. Let me know what you guys think down below. Comment section is yours. Hit that thumbs up. Follow me on social media at JDfromNY206, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Cameo. And please hit that subscribe button down below and turn on the bell for all notifications. Guys, I'll see you back with more content if there is any. It's been very slow, so bear with me. When there is news, you'll get it right here on Off the Script. I'll see you guys later.